I'm going to go ahead and get started. People are going to continue to trickle in and join us. And again, we have Mo Ari Brown joining us, who is Hinge's love and connection expert. I'm going to read your bio just because I want to make sure I get it all right, and I'm not going to paraphrase. So, Mo is Hinge's first ever love and connection expert, and Mo is focused on providing daters with the tools they need to find and build healthy relationships, pairing Hinge's research with their expertise in LGBTQIA plus relationships, and that way Mo is at the forefront of building an inclusive dating space where all singles can find love, both in the app and offline. Everybody needs that. We all know that. Um, Mo's a leading expert, a mental health expert in the realm of transgender identity. Mo also offers daters advice and expertise on establishing meaningful connections in the LGBTQIA plus community and creating healthier relationships. You've been working with Hinge to ensure that its app experiences support of all identities and that daters feel empowered to present their true selves through their profiles, which I know that can be complicated. And a little bit more about you. You have, over the past decade, worked with LGBTQIA plus individuals, couples, and families on their journey of self-love, which is something that comes up all the time in our questionnaire and in our essay. So that we're going to, hopefully talk about self-love a little. And you graduated from Northwestern University with an MS in marriage and family therapy, as well as a diversity and equity consultant and former adjunct professor at Adler University.
Yes.
So thanks for joining me, Bo.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the warm introduction and reading my bio. It's beautiful. I appreciate it.
You're my first expert at this. I don't ever want to be a relationship guru, but I like to have somebody who does know what they're talking about. So this is good. And, in particular, we're going to talk about the Gen Z Date report that Hinge put out. And I know you're an expert at that. I've read it many times. Um, but there was a survey of more than 30,000 Hinge daters across all identities. And one of the big things that came away from it was that, what is it? 84% of Gen Z Hinge daters want to find new ways to build deeper connections with people they're dating. Um, I mean, in many ways, it's nothing new, right? Like, we all want deeper connections. We all want deeper connections with people we're dating. I guess, start off, like, why was that so surprising, or was it?
Yeah, what we found is that you're right. 84% of Gen Z hinge daters desire those deeper emotional connections, but they're more likely than millennial daters to be hesitant to start those deeper conversations. And there are a number of reasons why. The top reasons, especially for LGBTQI plus hinge daters, was like fear of being too much. That was at the top of the list. Um, not knowing if the person you're dating wants to even have those conversations, not knowing how to do it. That list kind of goes on, but that top one was really like around, or one of the top ones was really around like fear of being too much. And I think that
Yeah.
hits home as an LGBTQ plus person because we are often made aware in so many painful ways sometimes how our identities are different, and sometimes that can get labeled too much. So this is, it got right to my heart because I felt that. So just in love, in life, professionally, personally, that bringing extra identities into spaces can add layers, and sometimes we end up feeling too much. So I'm here to remind us that that's not too much.
Well, I probably have been too much. I mean, we probably both have big personalities. What does that mean? Why are people so nervous? Like, just be yourself, right? That's what everybody says. But what does that too muchness mean, do you think?
Mm. The too muchness is probably centering around this question of like, will I be loved, respected, seen, celebrated for being my authentic self? I think
Right.
whenever we talk about love, we're often talking about authenticity and belonging. Because so often, in order to have love, we've been told we have to forfeit our authenticity, meaning we need to be like everybody else. Then we get belonging, then therefore we get the relationship. And what we're doing as LGBTQ plus people is so radical in the sense, and I wish it didn't have to be radical, but it really is in a world that is pushing against being different. What we're doing is like loving authentically. And that question I think often emerges inside of us, which is like, okay, if I keep being different, am I going to find other people that are celebrating me and willing to to love me? That question I think is behind
Right.
feeling of being too much. Will I be accepted? Will I be seen?
Well, the other big word that often comes up is vulnerability, and often you don't wanna be vulnerable on a first date, especially,
Mhm.
right? But at the same time, you wanna make that connection, so I
Yeah.
don't know. It's been I mean, I'm gonna go on the record. It's been a long time since I've officially dated anyone, like 20, let's say 25 years probably since I've actually been on an official date.
Yeah.
Although I have been on situations with people where I'm like, "Am I on a date? I didn't think I was." Because I have a full-time primary partner husband, so maybe I have accidentally. Um, what do you I've never had to do the dating thing through an app officially. So, what do you think adds to the complication of that, of also just communicating through technology, through texting? And also, I was really fascinated to learn through this report about people dating with voice memos. Like, I was like, "What?" I'm obviously an old person because I didn't know that that was a thing.
Yeah. Oh, well, we know dating certainly has I feel like it's continuously evolving. And so dating apps certainly have widened our ability to be able to connect with a lot of different people. But in that, that means that we also have to find new ways of connecting across technology. So of
Right.
course we talk about on Hinge, as you're mentioning, like the voice notes early in dating conversations, especially on Hinge, you could exchange voice messages. We also have voice prompts that are featured on people's profiles if they choose to use them, which is really answering a question in your voice. But I think that what it adds to the conversation is like personality. I can hear someone smile when they're talking.
Mm,
I think there's a frequency to everyone's voice, there's a vibration. So that leads to I think even more authentic connections because there's layers to attraction. There's like what we see, there's what we feel, there's what we sense, and
right,
our energies are just so organized around all of that. When we hear someone's voice, it tells us a lot about them. And so
right.
I urge them early on because I think that they give us a little window into who the person is. But I've also heard a lot of people say, I do not like voice messages because I do not like hearing my own voice. And so it really depends on the person that you're talking to. So I'd say kind of assess where they are with that. It's like you could say something like, "Hey, I like exchanging voice notes. I would love to, you to send them to me. I like to send them to you and see how they respond." Some people will be very direct and be like, "I do not like that." So,
See, well, that's also good that you can just share that and be like, "Nope, not my thing."
yeah.
Um So we're talking about Gen Z and specifically, but we're also looking at sort of gender as well. And I know that that can become complicated, especially for queer people. But it does seem for both uh, for men or male identified people in general that they seem to have even more issues around this. And have you seen that to be the case as well? That people who are male identified are just like, I really have to be careful about being too much, and yet they're the ones who want the deeper connection more than anything.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. Men, especially Gen Z men on Hinge have told us like they're worried about sharing more vulnerably because of that fear of being too much. That was like one of the top reasons that they told us. So you're definitely spot on. And I think there are a lot of reasons why, but I think primarily we live in a society that kind of hands masculine people a script that says, if you are vulnerable, that is a form of weakness. In order to be desirable, you need to be strong. And none of our definition of strong includes emotional vulnerability. So,
Mhm,
like, we get this script um, that is at odds with what our partners, the people who love us, are asking us for.
mhm.
And that's across genders. Like whoever we're dating is usually in this generation asking us to be some kind of emotionally present and vulnerable. But we got this script that says you should not do that if you want to be desirable. So it's like, what do we do? And I feel that tension a lot from daters, and it's creating what we call a hinge, the communication gap, where we
Right.
have desire for emotional connection and wanting to have these deeper conversations. But then there's something in the way of us making that first move, or there's a difference between that desire and the reality.
But then there was also this detail that three-quarters of the LGBTQ plus daters worry about asking deep questions. And I was like, what is a deep question? I remember on dates, like one of the things we always talked about back in the day was just coming out. Like, how did we come out to our family? Are we out? Right? Because I've dated closeted people, unfortunately. And is that a deep question? Like, what is a deep question?
Oh, that's good. I think it really, again, varies from person to person, but it's something that invites curiosity, deeper emotional connection. And I do think that vulnerability doesn't have to be as big as sharing your coming out story would feel for some people, depending on where they are in their journey. Vulnerability could be about sharing something that made you smile. Vulnerability could mean sharing about something that felt interesting, or like, let's say something that felt off-putting at work this week. It really depends on the person and their capacity for exposure, if you will. That vulnerability piece is really about taking the mask off, showing yourself authentically, and that's when we feel the most naked. So I think of vulnerability more as like being naked. It's like authenticity without the mask. That can be little, that could be a little, or it could be as big as, let me tell you my coming out story. Just depends on the date and their desire for that.
See, I told you I was too much. If I'm
No,
doing that, you think it's normal.
no. I personally like to go deep, so I would be a person that would invite that. I would be
Yeah,
like, "Yes, tell me all the things, how I connect this, you telling me your deeper insights." And then I think for some people, especially as they're maybe getting comfortable sharing more vulnerably,
right.
then they need to pace it. And actually, I think for LGBTQ plus women in our Gen Z report, they reported more of this feeling of the vulnerability hangover, which is like feel
Mm.
like after sharing vulnerably that we probably said too much, or feeling like did did that land well, just being really uncomfortable. That's that vulnerability hangover. LGBTQ plus women told us they experienced that more than other groups.
The vulnerability hangover. I'm gonna keep thinking about that term because I think maybe it's a prompt we need to ask more people about when they felt that.
Yeah.
For all those who've joined us, I want everyone to know that if you have any questions, we'll try to get to those. So you can leave them in the chat, and I'll ask Mo if Mo feels comfortable. Uh, but so you talked about the invisible scripts, and you wrote a really lovely piece for us that we published as well, and you talked about those scripts as well. Could you talk a little bit more about what some of those invisible scripts that either with your clients or yourself, or what you kind of understand that people are trying to undo, rewrite?
Yeah, absolutely. Some of examples of those that we get handed could be who pays for a date, what you should wear if you want to look masculine, how you should wear your hair. Some of those scripts might be who should be asking who out, what is courting,
Mm,
who should be planning. Um, I know some of and another script we could say is like in the queer community might be who's a top or who's a bottom based on aesthetic. Who's masc and who's femme based on aesthetic. These are like scripts, and they really our identities really vary based on like our experiences, but often we're getting, I guess, stereotypes are boxed in based on
mhm.
how we present or how we look. And so I think a lot of queer people we're trying to move beyond these kinds of invisible scripts.
So let's answer it. Who pays?
You said what?
Who pays?
Who paid?
I always think you should just split it equally. Be equal, equitable.
I think that that's like a fair assumption, unless otherwise stated. I think, now if you ask across, like, genders, I imagine it would start to, like, really vary. Some people I've had a lot of people say that it's whoever asks the other person out, and ultimately,
Mm,
I think that, we should presume um that we should presume that we're splitting it unless we're gonna have a conversation about it, and I do think, of course, I ultimately encourage that conversation because
yeah.
for some people, they might feel offended, like, "I really want to pay, so I don't like that you're trying to pay," so it really just depends.
I will tell you 2 personal stories so that if anybody's listening, they can understand that I'm being vulnerable. But, I once went on a date where the guy used a coupon. We were at an Outback Steakhouse, and he used a
Uh,
coupon. That was embarrassing.
yeah,
So he was paying, but it was a buy one, get one free, and
right,
that told me a lot. We still kissed at the end because I'm that guy.
yeah.
But, and then another one, I went out with a person who was much, much wealthier than me, like a six-figure person, whereas I was, like, starting out and not didn't have a lot of money, and I still insisted that we split it because I was like, "I don't want any expectations," and I just felt more comfortable, feeling like we were doing even though obviously it was the money for the dinner was nothing for him, and it was
Mm.
something for me. So anyway, that's an example.
Yeah, those are beautiful examples. I love that you were communicating what your needs were, even if even if he was going to assume like he would pay because he had more money. Like this is
Yeah,
like the um beautiful example of how the conversation is still necessary even when someone's eager to pay.
yeah,
Or I mean he might have been eager to pay. And then I
yeah.
for your date who used the coupon. I almost wanna say if somebody is gonna do that, that they should go to the stand and do it off to the side where you can't your date can't see. We're all in different financial situations. I know that economic times can be challenging. Um, and so I guess unless that is, like, already clarified, that
Exactly.
then it doesn't it can be read in so many ways. So it definitely invites a conversation if you're gonna
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And obviously, I just dated myself because some people be like, "What's a coupon?" But I I think, it could have just been like, "Hey, let's go to happy hour when things are cheaper," or something.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so,
Think this is when I think back in my 20s, I would use, like, Groupon because they would have, like, all these experiences, so it was the easy way of getting the discount, but also making it an activity date, which is, really popular right now.
I think that's smart. I mean, that is always hard. Like, what do you do? Do you go I think it's fascinating that people even go to a bar because I feel like you've set yourself up for somebody snatching your date away. Like, and I've had friends do that, right? Who's like, it's a bad date and they like leave with somebody else when they go to the bathroom or something. And I'm like, oof.
Wow. You were putting in game because
Yeah. I'm like, I would never go into that situation. You've already set yourself up for disappointment. But anyway, one of the things I was fascinated by was the fact that even though Gen Z, we could think is the most fluid generation when it comes to gender and sexuality, that there are these traditional assumptions about gender and identity mixed in. And this is what we're talking about with these signals. So again, like, is there a way that people that you recommend or give advice or I don't know, as a therapist, maybe you don't give advice, you just ask questions, but is there a way that you would, like, guide people to say, uh, you know, about saying the wrong thing or when they're trying to navigate these things? Especially, like, for example, what if somebody is, dating a trans person for the first time and they're not sure, like, all of the different things that they should be talking about?
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I love that. I with anything and yes, therapists do, we give our hands a lot. We try not to be unsolicited, but what I want for people to do with anything, especially when it comes to dating, is ask themselves, "What do I want to feel, and what feeling do I want other people to have in relationship with me?" That's the first question. And then with any question that you're asking, ask yourself, "How does this serve the purpose of connection?" So,
Mhm.
like, my good check-in with myself, if I'm uncomfortable asking something, "Does this serve connection?" Does it also serve that feeling I'd like to leave that other person with or the impression? Okay, cool. If it serves connection, then I think it's a good indicator that we're moving toward a question that brings us together. Because some questions I think flatten our identity. So, like if you're asking me, like as a trans person, questions about my identity, it could center transness too much when I've got all these layers and parts of me. Or there could be a real purpose for why you're asking, and that's is helpful to know. It's like, well, I'd really want so I guess example would be you really want to know more about dates that have made me feel uncomfortable as a trans person. You want to know this because you want to do a better job than that. You want to be better at dating me than those experiences.
But I would not ask that question on the date. Like, that seems triggering.
It could be a lot. So if you were to ask it, I'd say giving the reason as like, I really want to connect with you well, and I want to make sure that I'm not perpetrating any harms.
Right.
So could answer that question, or you could feel free to tell me when I'm doing something that does not support you. That then makes it kind of neutralizes the question in a way or makes it more supportive.
No, that's really smart. So you're basically saying you could say to the person like, "Hey, if I say something that, is out of order, or you feel like is just let me know, and I'm totally cool with that." Like, just getting ahead of that. Yeah, that's smart.
Yes, and then always sharing your curiosity and sometimes, like, your intention behind the curiosity. So especially when we're getting closer to people's identities, because ultimately, if I'm on the receiving end of that question, I just wanna know, "If I answer this question, will you still like me?" That's usually the question that people have. Uh,
Mm.
so if your intention is to connect with me, then I already feel more at ease answering it.
Yeah, yeah. I get you. Well, another point that came up, and this actually, because I actually went to an event where you were on a panel with other people, and so I learned a lot from that. Um, is yeah, I want to go back to this idea of pre-dating. So, do you think the app is a version of like a pre-date, like people are vetting each other, or what do you think people should be using the app for versus that in real life experience?
I definitely think that daters on Hinge are getting a solid idea of whether or not it's like a vibe check. They want to,
Mhm.
um, they're meeting people that would are maybe outside of their normal sphere of influence, and then they're connecting. They're getting a vibe check. Do we want to go out on a date? And ultimately, that's what we want. We want people to go out on great dates and build lasting, meaningful connections. So I'd say that the space on Hinge is really for getting to know one another, assessing compatibility, sensing into each other's energy, sharing lightness. It can be fun. But it really is about I desire for it to be a space for authenticity and sharing that.
Mhm. Okay, but then the other thing that surprised me because I did not expect this, but people are using AI to help them date. How's that? That doesn't
Yeah.
seem authentic.
Yeah, so I think AI can be a tool for it can be a tool or like a bridge for a deeper connection. So on and we are often not aware of how much stuff is probably using AI at this point. But in
Right.
specifically, let's say you write a prompt on your profile, where that's where you're answering a question, with I'd say like probably a cuter, witty response. You now can have prompt feedback that'll
Oh, okay.
or basically it tells you whether or not your response is complete, whether or not it's like adequate enough for you to share it, because sometimes I think people need help to connect more deeply or to engage in a way that's going to get them the results that they desire. So I think that that's a really good use for AI
Okay.
bridge. And that's the way I'd encourage it being used.
Right. We're not talking about like intense face tuning or anything like that.
No, no. Authenticity for sure.
Okay, good. Um, so, we are during this holiday time. I know you're going to travel for the holidays but a lot of people might be trying to go on some dates. And there's a lot of pressure around the big one, which is New Year's Eve and that sort of thing. And I'm just curious, if you have any pointers for people who are navigating dating during the holidays. Obviously, I don't think you should go visit someone's family if it's a first date. Like that seems like too much. But I don't know. Like, let's start with just this intense December, January time in general, where a lot of people have a lot of goals and expectations. And then I want to talk specifically about New Year's Eve and what you think about that.
Yeah, well, definitely going to visit someone's family on day sounds like the beginning of a rom-com. So
Yeah.
a little holiday movie.
If
Yeah,
that's what you want.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, my heart is pulled toward empathy because I do think that the holidays bring up so much longing, especially for people who are reviewing their relationship status. If you're in a relationship or you've ended relationships this year, you starting new ones, the holidays can just bring up so much. So I have so much empathy for people in this time period. But navigating dating during the season, I start with like for sure like realistic expectations. A lot of people are traveling and moving, and so you could connect with someone, and then you might not hear from them for 2 weeks, or you might not get to go on a date with them for a couple of weeks, and so that can kind of like change the pacing that would normally exist around dating, and so
Mhm.
being realistic about that is good during this time. If you are going on dates with people, I say like lean into some of the holiday fun, the things that bring you joy. Ultimately, I encourage people to really be centering all forms of connection. I like to say the antidote to loneliness is connection. So I'm not just saying romantic connection or just connection. And so these are times where maybe it's a platonic date with your best friend. Maybe it is a date with yourself,
Yeah.
self-love whole thing during this time. So before we get to the New Year stuff, the other holiday stuff, I just encourage connection that fuels you, that lights you up, connection of all kinds.
I actually love that you said that about a date with yourself. There's actually a writer named Julia Cameron who has a book called The Artist's Way, which is about a creative person's life. I don't know if
Yeah,
you're familiar.
yeah, definitely seen people reading it, read the synopsis.
So one of my things that I've kept from it over all the years, it's been like over 25 years that the book's been out, is this idea of an artist date where you take yourself out on a date, like go to a gallery, go to a show by yourself, go to just do something because sometimes people forget that when you like go to a movie, even with somebody, you're always wondering about that person next to you. Like, are they enjoying this? Are they hating this? Do they hate me? And sometimes if you just can take yourself out and just be like, this is for me, I wanna appreciate this, and then you don't have to deal with that anxiety or that's sitting next to you.
Yeah, that's so true. Like taking yourself on a date can
Yeah,
help you to center your needs, your feelings, your own. I think it's such a good time for reflection. That's why it's like so hard for me to separate New Year's from the rest of the holidays during this time period because I feel like my self-reflection, that going inward, that time for myself kind of starts around now. Um and I don't know how other people feel, but I definitely need more me time even during the holidays. So pace yourself, know your social limits during the holidays too. We can like really want to go and be a part of everything and be there for people and go nonstop. And sometimes we're kind of wearing ourselves thin. And then by
yeah,
like very second when we have to return to work, it's a lot.
yeah. Well, so then there is the, expectation that everybody needs to get kissed on New Year's,
Mhm.
and I'm very empathetic about this as well, right? So I often spend this with close friends. I met my, partner, who's now my husband, on New Year's Day, and, that was great, didn't expect it, but then when we get together with our friends, our single friends, I always am like, "Oh, I don't want them to feel like they're not getting kissed," so it just becomes like everybody's gonna get a kiss from somebody, hopefully. But, so But what about if you've met this person, maybe, you were on Hinge, you got over all of your, connection issues, but then you wanted to see this person on New Year's Eve, and, I don't know, there's a lot of baggage. What do you think?
There's a lot of baggage in what way?
Of, like, expectations and feeling like a failure and feeling like this is, like, you have to make it work or something. Obviously, also, you could just have it for one night. It could just be a one-night date, and then you don't have to ever see that person again.
Yeah, so you're talking about like this like feeling that pressure that if this relationship starts at the end of the year, this has to be it into 2026. Like I have to like make this work. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm. Where my heart goes with that is I want people anybody listening to me. I would love um, for you to center the present moment, the experience, and the journey of connection. Because I think that sometimes we're really focused on like the end goal, myself included. I have dated, gotten married, had a kid, and done like the goal oriented approach, and still had to go back and like edit some things and be like, oh, actually, we missed this along and I think there are so many moments where I wasn't present because I was trying to get to the next goal. And so that first kiss on New Year's, the kiss alone is a whole thing and it have its moment. If we are at that kiss trying to plan 6 months from now, we are not with that kiss. There are some first kisses that I can remember with my whole entire being because I was present. And I just wanna be I'm encouraging everybody to just be that present to that moment, and it's so magical. Um, I'm just giddy thinking about that. So, my advice is to be really present, enjoy it, savor those kinds of moments. The holidays add this special kind of magic to things, or it can. It doesn't always feel like that for some people, so I'm extremely empathic too about that. But if you have this moment where you're like gonna have a first kiss, let that first kiss have its moment.
absolutely. I think that is the best lesson and a lot of people could take. I also think the biggest takeaway is what you've said many times, which is empathy.
Yeah.
Um, that's important. And we're gonna be thinking about this vulnerability hangover for a while. And do you have any solution for getting over the vulnerability hangover? It's not like just drink a lot of water.
No. It really is pacing. So
Yeah.
with anything that like has us feeling uncomfortable, I think little exposures over time can go a long way. So it's really about building our capacity or building our nervous system's capacity to tolerate that kind of like vulnerability steadily and consistently over time. So again, starting you can start with small things. It doesn't have to be like big, like you said, like your whole coming out story. Unless you're there ready to share that. And for some people, that's not big because they've already gotten to the place where their capacity is expanded. So it's really about what is at your capacity level, and it's so different from person to person. So start with that, like favorite childhood memories and things like that,
Mhm.
and you can work yourself up over time to the things that make you feel more vulnerable. So for instance, me talking about my identity and my experiences as a trans person because I'm a person who educates on these things, this is probably not the most vulnerable thing that I could share.
Right.
But if I let you hear my shower singing voice, then Mo is getting vulnerable. So then I'm warmed up. Then I like you.
Well, if you're giving the shower singing voice, that means somebody's in the shower with you,
Oh
so
gosh.
well, this has been amazing, Mo. I'm so happy that you joined me and shared all of this. Is there anything that you were hoping for people in 2026? I know we're all starting to look forward to the next year.
Yes, I'm looking forward to in 2026 and beyond more emotional vulnerability. I encourage people to say more of how they feel, say more of how you feel. orient toward connection from your joy. A lot of times we've had to center so many difficult experiences in relationships, especially as queer people. And so 2026 gets to be our time for centering relationships around joy and levity and play. And my one thing that I'll say is that sometimes when we're used to um, difficult experiences, emotional weight in relationships, peace, or relationships that feel like play can feel unfamiliar. So just keep checking in with yourself when play and peace and fun arrive. Am I just feeling vulnerable because now I get to take my mask off? When I'm used to wearing my mask, that kind of vulnerability makes me feel uncomfortable. So in 2026, I just want us to take the mask off, let ourselves be emotionally naked, and yeah, and hopefully we build more connections that really feel connected.
That's great. Thank you so much. And I just want to let everyone know if you're listening to this on a different platform and you don't already know, this is Mo, who is the love and connection expert at Hinge. And you can also find Fluent in Love, which is your Substack.
Yeah.
And if you're not already a subscriber, you should subscribe. And also, Queer Love Project is on Substack. It's free, and you'll be able to find this later if you want. If you haven't joined us live today, and also more information about uh, love and connection.
Yay, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Mo. And hopefully we'll talk again soon. This has been great.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye bye.
Bye.